The neighborhood saw Maya as the embodiment of grace. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight washed over the row of identical houses, she stepped outside with a soft smile, watering the flowers that bloomed along her neat little fence. To the passing neighbors, she was polite, gentle, and enviably stable in her marriage. People whispered that Raheel was a lucky man. What no one noticed, however, was the quiet sadness tucked behind her eyes. Her husband's presence in the house was heavy, yet hollow. Raheel left before dawn most days, his suit pressed, his face buried in his phone as though the glow of emails mattered more than the warmth of his wife. When he did return home, exhaustion clung to him like a second skin. Dinner was eaten in silence. Conversations lasted only as long as it took to discuss bills, schedules, and the occasional neighborhood news. Maya had once admired his ambition. In their early years of marriage, she felt proud that Raheel was a man who provided, who built a future brick by brick. But over time, the foundation of their bond crumbled. He became more of a shadow than a partner. She was not mistreated nor ignored deliberately. He simply occupied a world where she no longer seemed to belong. One evening, as the ceiling fan hummed above their dining table, she tried to bridge the gap. "Raheel," she said softly, placing a bowl of steaming curry in front of him. "Do you ever feel like we don't talk anymore?" He barely glanced up. "We're talking now." "That's not what I mean," she pressed, her voice trembling with something between frustration and longing. "We used to share things, laugh. I don't even know what you're feeling these days." Raheel sighed, rubbing his temples. "Maya, I'm tired. Work drains me. Can we not do this tonight?" The words stung more than she wanted to admit. She nodded, swallowing the ache in her throat. Of course. The rest of the evening played out in silence, broken only by the clinking of cutlery. Later, as she stood alone at the kitchen sink, hands submerged in warm, soapy water, her reflection in the window pane seemed like that of a stranger, someone stuck in a life carefully arranged for appearances, not for love. The outside world saw order, a clean house, well-prepared meals, and the smiling wife who never failed to wave at the neighbors. But Maya knew it was all performance, a stage where she played her part flawlessly. Inside, she felt invisible. Nights were the hardest. She often lay awake beside Raheel, staring into the darkness. His steady breathing was proof of his distance. Inches apart on the mattress, yet miles apart in spirit. She reached out once, brushing her fingertips lightly against his arm, hoping he might stir, turn toward her, or whisper something to remind her she was still cherished. But he didn't move. The emptiness spread inside her like a quiet storm. It wasn't anger she felt, nor betrayal, at least not yet. It was loneliness, thick and suffocating, the kind that made the walls feel closer every day. On Sunday mornings, when neighbors stopped by to exchange pleasantries, Maya smiled easily, poured tea, and listened to their chatter about gardens and grocery sales. To them, she was warm and welcoming, the image of contentment. No one asked what she truly felt. No one saw the invisible cracks beneath the surface. When Raheel left for another late-night meeting the following week, Maya lingered by the window, watching the empty street. The air outside was cooler, freer than the weight pressing on her chest. Across the road, the house next door flickered with light. Car pulled into the driveway, and a young man stepped out carrying a duffel bag, his features illuminated for a brief second by the porch lamp. Maya's gaze lingered without realizing it. There was something unfamiliar yet strangely magnetic about him. She pulled the curtains closed quickly, heart beating a little faster than usual. For the first time in years, she felt the faint stir of anticipation. The memory of that brief glimpse through the window lingered in Maya's mind longer than she cared to admit. She told herself it was nothing, just a neighbor's son returning home. Yet when she stood at her kitchen counter the next morning, pouring tea, her eyes drifted toward the house across the street. She noticed the blinds half drawn, a suitcase resting against the porch. Days later, the encounter she hadn't expected unfolded. Maya was returning from the market, her arms weighed down by grocery bags. The sun pressed harshly against her skin, and she struggled with the keys at her gate. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind her. "Let me help you with that." She turned, startled. It was him, the young man from the other night. Tall, broad-shouldered, with an easy smile that carried both warmth and confidence. He stepped forward and relieved her of the heavier bags as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "Thank you," she murmured, adjusting the dupatta on her shoulder. "No problem at all." "I'm Ayan," he said, setting the bags on the patio bench. "I live next door." "Well, again, I guess. Just got back after a few years abroad." Maya's lips curved politely. "Welcome home." "I'm Maya." Their eyes met briefly, and something unspoken passed between them. A flicker of awareness too subtle to be named. She looked away quickly, busying herself with unlocking the door. Inside, as she unpacked the groceries, she replayed the encounter in her head. His voice still echoed, casual yet grounding, so different from the flat tone of her husband. It unsettled her that such a simple moment left her pulse unsteady. Later that afternoon, Rahil returned home, tossing his briefcase on the sofa. His phone buzzed endlessly with messages. Maya brought him tea, but he barely glanced up. "You look tired," she ventured. "Meetings back to back." "Tomorrow's the same," he muttered, scrolling through emails. The space between them felt wider than ever, and in that silence she thought of the stranger's smile at her doorstep. The next day, Maya stepped outside to water her plants. The neighborhood was alive with the sounds of children playing, dogs barking, and vendors calling out. Across the fence, she noticed Ayan carrying boxes from the trunk of his car. He spotted her, raised a hand, and walked over. "Still settling in," he said lightly. "You wouldn't believe how much stuff I collected in just a few years." She gave a soft laugh. "It happens. Homes have a way of filling themselves." They talked briefly. Nothing remarkable on the surface: his studies in London, his mother's joy at his return, her recommendation of a local store. Yet beneath the exchange, Maya felt something stirring, like a draft entering through a window she thought was sealed shut. Description painted the moment vividly: the sun catching in his hair, his relaxed stance against the fence, the slight tilt of his head when he listened to her. Maya caught herself noticing too much, her breath hitching when their eyes met for a second longer than politeness required. Back inside, she pressed her palms against the cool kitchen counter, frustrated with herself. This was madness. Ayan was just the neighbor's son, nothing more. And yet, the silence of her marriage echoed so loudly that even a casual conversation felt like forbidden music. That evening, while Rahil buried himself in reports, Maya sat by the window. She could see faint movement from Ayan's room, the glow of a desk lamp, the outline of him leaning over books. She quickly drew the curtains, ashamed at the warmth rising within her. Still, as she lay in bed that night beside Rahil's sleeping form, the image of Ayan lingered behind her closed eyes. It had begun, not in action, not in betrayal, but in thought, and thoughts, Maya realized, were often the first cracks in a perfect facade. The days that followed seemed ordinary to everyone but Maya. To her, each moment carried an unfamiliar electricity. It wasn't deliberate, not yet. It was chance. Brief crossings on the street, conversations stretched a little longer than politeness demanded, a smile that lingered just enough to unsettle her heart. Ayan appeared everywhere. When she walked to the gate to collect the mail, he was there, washing his car. When she went to the market, she found him at the same vegetable stall, teasing the vendor in a tone that drew laughter. Even the most casual encounters felt sharpened by something invisible, like the hum of static before a storm. One afternoon, while returning from the tailor, Maya nearly tripped over a loose stone on the pavement. Before she could steady herself, a hand caught her arm. "Careful," Ayan said, his voice low, steady. His touch lasted only a second before he let go. But her skin burned as though branded. "Thank you," she whispered, breathless though the stumble had been minor. Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, silence swallowed the world around them. She looked away first, embarrassed at the heat rising in her cheeks. That night, Maya set the dinner table for Rahil, who arrived late again. His tie was loosened, his forehead shining with the stress of the day. She served food quietly, waiting, hoping he might notice her new earrings, or at least ask how her day had been. He didn't. Instead, Rahil scrolled through his phone, spooning rice mechanically. "The Sharma deal finally closed. Means more work in the coming months." Maya offered a faint smile. "That's good news." Yes, he replied without looking at her. The conversation ended there. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. Later, she sat alone in the dim glow of the living room lamp, replaying the earlier moment with Ayan. It terrified her how easily her mind drifted there, how her heart had responded to something as small as a hand on her arm. She tried to remind herself of vows, of loyalty, of the man she had built her life with, but Rahil's silence, his indifference, left her feeling less like a wife and more like a shadow. The next morning, while hanging laundry in the backyard, she heard Ayan's voice carry over the fence. "Do you always do this alone?" Startled, she turned to find him leaning casually against the fence, a mischievous grin tugging at his lips. "It's not so bad," she replied, adjusting a sheet on the line. "I could help, you know. I've been accused of being good at folding clothes." Maya laughed despite herself. "I doubt that. Well, maybe not. But I'm good company." The words were playful, yet his gaze lingered longer than necessary. Maya felt her pulse quicken. She turned back to the laundry, pretending to focus, but the awareness between them thickened, filling the air like humidity before rain. For the rest of the day, her thoughts battled fiercely. She knew this was dangerous, that she was standing on a line that should not be crossed. But each encounter fed a hunger she hadn't even realized she carried. The hunger to be seen. Desired, valued. That evening, Rahil's voice cut through her drifting thoughts. "Maya, did you pay the electricity bill?" "Yes," she answered automatically. "Good." He returned to his laptop without further word. She stared at him across the room. The man she had once adored sat inches away, yet felt galaxies distant. And somewhere next door, a young man's laughter echoed faintly, reminding her of the life she might have missed. As she prepared for bed, Maya pressed her fingers to her arm, the very spot where Ayan had steadied her. The memory lingered, warm and persistent. She lay awake in the darkness, torn between guilt and yearning, loyalty and temptation. The storm had not arrived yet, but she could already smell the rain. The evening began with nothing unusual. Rahil had left for an out-of-town business dinner, promising he might not return until morning. Maya prepared herself for another long night of silence. The house a hollow shell filled only with the hum of ceiling fans and the ticking of clocks. But then, the lights went out. The entire neighborhood was swallowed in sudden darkness. A chorus of surprised voices echoed outside. Children shrieked and dogs barked in confusion. Maya stood still for a moment, clutching the edge of the dining table. Her heart beat loud in the silence. She reached for her phone, using the faint glow of the screen to guide her steps toward the balcony. The street below flickered with flashlights and candlelight from other homes. Across the road, she noticed Ayan on his porch, holding a lantern, his face bathed in a golden halo. He looked up at her, caught her gaze, and raised the light as if beckoning her. Moments later, a knock came at her door. "Maya, you okay in there?" His voice was steady, warm, cutting through the oppressive darkness. She hesitated before opening the door. Ayan stood there, lantern in hand, the faint smell of rain clinging to his clothes. "I thought you might be scared," he said, stepping inside. "These power cuts can be long sometimes." "I'm fine," she replied, though her trembling hands betrayed her. He placed the lantern on the table, filling the room with a soft glow. Shadows danced along the walls, casting both of them in shifting light. They sat across from each other, speaking in hushed tones about nothing important. Her cooking, his travels, the absurd timing of outages. Yet beneath every word was something unsaid, something urgent. At one point, she rose to fetch water, but her foot slipped against the leg of a chair. Ayan reached out instinctively, steadying her by the waist. The contact was brief, but neither moved away. Their eyes locked, the silence charged, hearts thundering louder than the storm outside. "Maya," he whispered, his voice unsteady. "I shouldn't." "Neither should I," she interrupted, breathless. And then it happened. The space between them collapsed. His lips brushed hers, tentative at first, then urgent. She tasted the recklessness of youth, the danger of desire. Her body responded before her mind could protest. The kiss deepened, raw and hungry, igniting something inside her she thought had long died. When they finally pulled apart, both were gasping, trembling. Guilt rushed in like a flood, but so did exhilaration. For the first time in years, Maya felt alive, seen, wanted. "This is wrong," she whispered, clutching her chest. "I know," Ayan admitted, his hand still lingering near hers. "But I can't stop thinking about you." The room swayed with the weight of their confession. Maya closed her eyes, torn between shame and longing. She thought of Raheel, his indifference, his silence, and for a fleeting moment the thought did not anchor her. It freed her. The power returned with a sudden surge, filling the room with harsh white light. Both of them blinked, startled, reality rushing back like a slap. Ayan stood quickly, running a hand through his hair. "I should go," he muttered, though his voice was thick with reluctance. Maya didn't stop him. She simply watched as he stepped outside, the door clicking softly shut behind him. Alone again, she leaned against the wall, trembling. The taste of him lingered on her lips, her body still humming with forbidden electricity. Shame clawed at her chest, whispering of betrayal. But another voice, quieter, more dangerous, whispered of possibility. When she finally crawled into bed beside Raheel's empty pillow, sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ayan's face, felt the press of his lips, the heat of his touch. The line had been crossed, and once crossed, lines rarely disappear. They only blur further. The kiss during the power outage should have ended everything. Maya told herself it was a slip, a moment born of darkness and loneliness. Yet in the days that followed, the memory burned too brightly to ignore. Every time she passed Ayan's house, her heart skipped, her body betraying her will. It began with texts. Short, harmless at first. "Did you sleep?" "Barely, me too." Soon the words grew bolder, heavier. They used coded phrases, inside jokes that no one else would understand. Each vibration of her phone sent a rush of adrenaline through her, the thrill of secrecy mingling with fear. Their meetings followed quickly after. At first, only accidental seeming encounters, bumping into each other near the market, exchanging fleeting glances in crowded spaces. But soon shadows became their sanctuary. Ayan would slip through the side gate when Raheel worked late, and they would share hurried whispers in the dim kitchen, their bodies brushing just enough to spark fire. "You drive me insane," Ayan murmured once, his breath hot against her ear. "This is madness," Maya whispered back, though her hands clung to him as if she couldn't let go. They laughed quietly in stolen corners, kissed feverishly behind closed curtains, and held each other as if every second were borrowed. The house that had once suffocated Maya now felt alive with danger. But with desire came paranoia. Every creak of the floorboards made her flinch. Every glance from the neighbors felt like suspicion. Once, while standing at the sink with Ayan behind her, his arms wrapped around her waist, she caught sight of her reflection in the glass window. The image startled her, a woman flushed, trembling, both guilty and radiant. She quickly pushed him away. "What's wrong?" Kian asked, frowning. "Someone could see," she hissed. Peering through the curtains. "No one's watching," he said, trying to pull her close again. "You don't know that." The thrill and the fear warred inside her. At night, lying beside Raheel, she felt the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. His calm breathing seemed almost accusatory. She wanted to confess, to cry, to beg him to see her. But when she tried to speak, he dismissed her with exhaustion. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, Raheel asked, "Why are you smiling to yourself lately?" Her heart stopped. "Am I?" She forced a laugh. "Maybe I'm just relieved the weather's cooling down." He studied her briefly before returning to his food. Maya's hands shook beneath the table. The affair consumed her. Ayan became both her escape and her prison. He made her feel desired in ways Raheel never did. But his youth carried a recklessness she couldn't always control. One night, while they sat together in his car parked on a deserted street, Ayan turned to her. His voice was low but insistent. "Leave him." Maya stiffened. "What? You don't love him anymore." "You love me. Be with me fully." She shook her head, panic rising. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "You deserve more than a husband who doesn't even look at you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't understand. I've built a life with Raheel. A marriage isn't something you throw away like old clothes." Ayan's jaw tightened. He gripped the steering wheel, frustration evident. "I'm tired of hiding. I want you. All of you. Maya turned toward the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. His words frightened her not because they were wrong, but because a part of her wanted to believe them. That night, as she crept back into her house, every sound seemed amplified. The click of the lock, the echo of her footsteps, the creak of the bedroom door. She slid into bed, her body still tingling with Ayan's touch, but her mind screaming with guilt. Rahil stirred beside her. "You're late," he mumbled. "I lost track of time," she whispered. He drifted back into sleep without pressing further. Maya lay awake, eyes wide in the darkness. The hidden flame burned brighter each day, but so did the shadows it cast. She knew it was only a matter of time before someone else felt its heat. The hidden flame inside Maya continued to burn, but its glow left ashes in her wake. No matter how carefully she tried to mask it, Rahil began to sense something different. It wasn't one thing. It was everything. Her late returns from the market, the way she jumped when her phone buzzed, the faint smile that flickered on her lips when she thought no one was watching. Even her silences carried a new weight, as though her thoughts lived elsewhere, with someone else. At first, Rahil brushed it off as stress. Work had trained him to read signs, to calculate risks, to notice shifts in behavior. But the unease grew too strong to ignore. One evening, when Maya walked in later than usual, a faint trace of perfume clinging to her, Rahil was waiting in the living room. His laptop sat closed, his eyes fixed on her with unusual sharpness. "You're late," he said. Maya hesitated, forcing a casual smile. The shop was crowded. Took longer than I expected. He studied her closely. "Strange. The shop's always closed by 9. It's almost 11, her heart pounded. She set the grocery bag on the table, careful not to meet his gaze. "I stopped to chat with Mira from the neighborhood." Rahil leaned back, arms crossed. "You've never been much of a talker with the neighbors." "Why now?" The air between them tightened. Maya busied herself with the vegetables, her hands moving too quickly, betraying her nerves. "You don't trust me?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Rahil admitted, his voice rougher than usual. "I just feel like you're not here anymore. Even when you sit in front of me, it's like your mind is somewhere else." Maya froze, her fingers gripping a tomato so tightly it nearly burst. She forced a laugh. "You're imagining things. You've been working too hard." But Rahil wasn't convinced. Days later, the tension erupted. It began with something small, her forgetting to iron his shirt. Then he intended. "You don't care anymore, do you?" he accused. Maya turned, startled. "It was just a shirt." "No," he said firmly, stepping closer. "It's not just a shirt. It's everything. You barely talk to me. You avoid my eyes. You come home late. Tell me, Maya, what's going on?" Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream the truth, to confess that she had been drowning in loneliness for years. But the words twisted inside her. "There's nothing wrong," she said, her voice trembling. "Don't lie to me," Rahil shot back, his fists clenched at his sides, not in violence but in desperation. "I may not say much, but I see you. I see how different you've become." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "And what about you, Rahil? Do you see how different you've become? You come home and barely look at me. You bury yourself in work. You act like I'm invisible." The words hung in the air like broken glass, sharp and dangerous. Rahil faltered, his expression softening for a moment. "I work because I thought that's what mattered, providing for us, building something stable. But I needed you," Maya whispered, her voice cracking. "Not your money, not your success. You, and you left me long before I ever left you." The silence that followed was unbearable. Rahil turned away, his shoulders tense. "If something's happening, Maya, if there's someone else, I swear." He stopped himself, the words choking in his throat. Maya wiped her tears quickly. "There isn't." The lie slipped out effortlessly, but guilt dug deeper into her chest. That night they lay side by side, backs turned to each other. The bed felt colder than ever, the gulf between them wide and unbridgeable. In the darkness, Maya stared at the ceiling, her mind unraveling. Ayan's words from the car echoed in her memory. "Leave him. Be with me fully." She squeezed her eyes shut, torn between two worlds. One of duty and silence, the other of passion and danger. The cracks in her marriage were no longer hairline fractures. They were widening, threatening to split everything apart. and she knew sooner or later someone would fall through. The silence in her bedroom lingered long after Rahil's breathing slowed into uneasy sleep. Maya lay awake, eyes wide, the argument replaying in her mind. Every word, every accusation, every denial, it gnawed at her. The cracks in her marriage had widened, but instead of repair, she had chosen escape. And that escape now had a name: Ayan. The next afternoon, she found herself waiting in her car outside the old library parking lot where they sometimes met. Her hands shook against the steering wheel, the guilt pressing heavy. When Ayan appeared, tall and confident in his casual clothes, a rush of warmth mixed with dread surged through her. He slipped into the passenger seat, his grin playful. "Missed me." Maya forced a smile, her voice quieter than usual. "This is risky, Ayan. People might see." He leaned closer, brushing her hair back. "Let them. I don't care. Do you?" Her breath caught, and for a fleeting moment she allowed the heat of his presence to erase her fears. But when he pressed his lips against hers with urgent hunger, she pulled away. "Ayan, stop," she whispered, glancing nervously around. His expression darkened. "You're pulling away again. First you said you couldn't stay long, now this. What's going on, Maya? Don't tell me you're starting to regret us." She swallowed hard. "It's not regret. It's complicated. I'm married." The word hung heavy between them. Ayan's jaw tightened. "You keep saying that like it means something. He doesn't see you the way I do. He doesn't love you the way I do. You're wasting yourself with him." Maya's pulse quickened. "Don't talk about Rahil like that. You don't understand." Oh, I understand." Ayan cut in sharply, his voice laced with something colder than passion. "I understand you keep going back to him after everything we share. That you lie in his bed while I sit here waiting for scraps of your time." Her chest tightened. She had never seen him this way, possessive, almost unhinged. "Ayan, please," she said gently. "I can't just walk away from my marriage. It's not that simple." He leaned closer, his eyes. He paused, letting the silence stretch until her stomach knotted. "Or I might have to tell him the truth." Maya's world spun. For a moment she couldn't breathe. "You wouldn't?" His smile was unsettling, almost triumphant. "Wouldn't I? Think about it. One word from me and your perfect little life comes crashing down. You'll lose him, your reputation, everything. Unless you choose me." Fear surged through her veins like poison. The thrill of their affair now carried a price she hadn't foreseen. A leash tightening around her neck. She pulled her hands from his grip, shaking. "You're scaring me, Ayan." "Good," he whispered. "Maybe then you'll finally understand how much I need you." The drive home felt endless. Every red light, every glance in the rearview mirror carried the weight of his threat. Her once secret world of stolen passion had turned into a prison with Ayan holding the key. At home, Rahil noticed her trembling hands as she poured tea. "Are you all right?" he asked softly, suspicion still flickering in his gaze. Maya forced a smile, just tired, but inside her mind spiraled. She replayed Ayan's words, the venom hidden in his charm. He had the power to destroy everything, and she had given it to him willingly. That night, while Rahil slept beside her, Maya sat at the edge of the bed, staring into the dark. The shadows on the walls twisted like silent witnesses to her secret. She clutched her phone, half expecting another message from Ayan. Another demand, another reminder of her fragile leash. The line between passion and obsession had blurred beyond recognition. Ayan no longer felt like an escape. He felt like a trap, and yet she couldn't stop thinking of him. The danger, the heat, the intoxication. It still pulled at her like a drug, even as fear hollowed her from within. Somewhere deep down, Maya realized she was no longer in control. What began as stolen moments had grown into something far darker. And if Ayan's threat was real, her marriage wasn't the only thing at stake. Her entire life teetered on the edge of exposure. Maya had rehearsed the words 100 times in her head. She would tell Ayan it was over, that their affair had gone too far, that she needed to salvage what little was left of her marriage. She told herself she could be firm, resolute, unshakable. But standing in front of him that night, in the quiet corner of the abandoned park where they often met, all her courage dissolved beneath his gaze. Ayan's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "So this is it? After everything, you want to walk away?" Maya swallowed, her breath unsteady. "We can't keep doing this." "It's wrong." Rahil suspects something. If he finds out, let him find out. Ayan snapped, his voice sharp enough to slice through the night air. Why should I keep hiding like some shameful secret? You belong with me. Her hands trembled. No, Ayan, I don't belong to anyone. I made a mistake. I thought I needed this, but it's tearing me apart. The words had barely left her lips when his expression shifted. Gone was the charming boy who had once made her laugh with easy jokes and innocent glances. What replaced him was colder, darker. He stepped closer, his tone low and dangerous. You think you can just use me and then throw me away? Do you have any idea what I've risked for you? Maya's heart raced. I never meant to hurt you. But if Rahil finds out, don't say his name, Ayan hissed. Don't talk about that man as if he still matters. He doesn't deserve you. I do. When she tried to turn away, he grabbed her wrist, his grip unyielding. She gasped, the pain startling her. Ayan, let go, she pleaded. But he only tightened his hold. His face hovered inches from hers, his breath hot with fury. If you walk away from me, Maya, I swear I'll tell him everything. Every detail. I'll make sure he knows exactly how his perfect wife betrayed him. Her knees weakened. The threat cut deeper than any slap. Please don't do this. His voice dropped, chilling her to the bone. And if he tries to take you from me, if he even thinks about hurting you for what we've done, I'll kill him. Maya's blood turned cold. The words weren't shouted. They were whispered with terrifying certainty. You don't mean that, she stammered. Oh, I mean every word, Ayan said, eyes burning with obsession. I won't let anyone come between us. Not him, not anyone. You're mine now, Maya, mine. Tears blurred her vision. She had wanted passion, connection, something to fill the void her marriage had left behind. But this was something else entirely. Ayan's love had curdled into control, his desire into domination. I can't do this, she whispered, her voice breaking. You're scaring me. Good, he sneered, releasing her wrist abruptly. The skin throbbed red where his fingers had pressed into her. Maybe fear will make you stay. Maybe now you'll finally realize you can't live without me. She stumbled back, clutching her arm. For a moment, she thought about running, screaming, doing anything to escape. But she knew the danger wasn't only in his words. It was in the truth he carried, the secret that bound them. When she finally returned home, Rahil was sitting at the dining table, papers spread before him. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. You're late again, he said, his tone laced with suspicion. Maya tried to steady her voice. I lost track of time. His gaze flicked to her wrist where faint marks had already begun to show. What happened there? She quickly pulled her sleeve down. Nothing. Just bumped into a shelf at the store. Rahil's silence was heavier than words. He studied her for a long moment before returning to his papers. But Maya knew. He didn't believe her. That night, lying awake beside her husband, Maya felt the walls closing in. On one side, Rahil's suspicion grew sharper, threatening to expose her lies. On the other, Ayan's obsession tightened around her like a vice, promising destruction if she dared to leave. She had thought she could control the fire she had started. Instead, it had become an inferno, consuming everything in its path. And now, trapped between a husband she could no longer fool and a lover she could no longer trust, Maya realized something terrifying. There was no way out that wouldn't end in ruin. The storm outside rattled the windows, the wind howling like a chorus of restless spirits. Maya sat alone in the living room, her fingers curled tightly around a cup of untouched tea. The shadows seemed thicker that night, pressing in on her from every side. She hadn't planned for Ayan to come. She hadn't answered his last 3 calls. She told herself she needed distance, that she had to find a way to end this before it destroyed her completely. But she underestimated his persistence, his refusal to be ignored. At 10:47 p.m., a knock pounded against the front door. It was sharp, urgent, impossible to mistake. Maya's heart dropped. She opened it just enough to see him. Ayan stood there, drenched from the rain, his hair plastered to his forehead, eyes burning with something dangerous. You weren't answering me, he said flatly, stepping inside before she could protest. His soaked jacket dripped onto the rug, but he didn't care. Maya shut the door quickly, panic rising in her chest. Ayan, you can't be here. Rahil could come back any moment. He's working late again, isn't he? Ayan's smirk was bitter. You think I don't know his schedule? You think I don't watch? His words chilled her. This has to stop. Whatever this is, we can't keep going like this. You're scaring me. Scaring you? His laugh was hollow. I gave you everything, Maya, my time, my heart, my soul. And you still choose him? Maya backed away as he advanced, the distance between them shrinking with every step. I never asked you to give me everything. I made a mistake and I want to fix it. His voice cracked into fury. A mistake? Is that what I am to you? He grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise. You think you can use me like a toy and then toss me aside? She winced, trying to pull free. Let go, Ayan. You don't understand? No, you don't understand. He roared, shaking her. I've given up everything for you. And if I can't have you, no one will. The room spun. His grip tightened, and for a terrifying moment, Maya thought he might actually make good on his earlier threat. Adrenaline surged through her veins. She shoved him back with all her strength. He stumbled, but his rage only deepened. With a guttural growl, he lunged at her, knocking over a chair as his hands pinned her shoulders. You're mine, he shouted, his face inches from hers, eyes wild. Maya thrashed beneath him, desperate for air, desperate for escape. Her hand flailed against the coffee table until it struck something cold and metallic. Her fingers closed around it, a kitchen knife she had left behind after cooking earlier. In one frantic motion, she swung. The blade sank deep into his side. Ayan's eyes widened in shock, his breath catching in his throat. For a second, he didn't seem to understand what had happened. Then came the blood, dark, warm, spreading quickly across his shirt. He staggered back, a choked sound escaping his lips. Maya! Her own scream tore through the silence, raw and broken. The knife slipped from her trembling hands, clattering onto the floor. Ayan collapsed, his body convulsing once before slumping against the rug. The rain outside seemed to echo louder, masking the sound of his final gasps. Maya stood frozen, her chest heaving, her palms slick with blood. The metallic scent filled the air, sharp and suffocating. She stumbled backward until her legs gave out, collapsing against the wall. Her mind reeled. She hadn't meant for this to happen. She only wanted him to leave. She only wanted to be free. But now freedom lay in front of her, motionless in a spreading pool of crimson. Minutes felt like hours. The clock ticked mercilessly, each second louder than the last. Her breaths came in ragged sobs, her body shaking so violently she could barely hold herself upright. She crawled toward him, tears blurring her vision. Ayan, please, her voice broke. She pressed her hand against the wound, desperate to stop the bleeding. But the blood only poured through her fingers. His chest no longer rose. The silence that followed was unbearable. Maya's reflection in the window caught her eye, her face streaked with tears, her hands painted red. She barely recognized the woman staring back. The house felt haunted now, every corner echoing with what had just happened. The overturned chair, the broken cup on the floor, the body lying still on the rug. She pressed her blood-stained hands to her face and let out a muffled scream. There was no undoing this, no pretending it hadn't happened. The storm outside raged on, thunder shaking the walls, lightning illuminating the grotesque scene inside. Maya felt the weight of what she had done settle. Over her like a shroud, Ayan was dead, and she was the one who killed him. The sound of a key turning in the front lock jolted her from her spiral. Her blood ran cold. Rahil was home. Sound of the key turning in the lock froze Maya where she crouched, blood still warm and sticky between her fingers. For a moment, she thought her heart had stopped. The door creaked open, and Rahil stepped inside, shaking off the rain from his shoulders. He looked up, expecting the quiet order of home. Instead, his gaze fell on the chaos. The overturned chair, the shattered cup, the crimson trail across the rug, and the body. Time seemed to stall. Rahil's briefcase slid from his hand, thudding against the floor. His face drained of color as his eyes darted to Maya, kneeling in shock, her hands stained red. Maya. His voice cracked, disbelief trembling through it. What have you done? She opened her mouth, but words tangled in her throat. A strangled sob escaped instead. Rahil stepped forward slowly, as if afraid the scene would collapse beneath him. He knelt beside Ayan's lifeless form, his trembling fingers hovering above the blood-soaked shirt before pulling back. His jaw clenched, horror etched into his features. Tell me this isn't real, he whispered. Maya's voice finally broke through, raw and desperate. I didn't mean to. He came here, he wouldn't stop, he tried to hurt me. I had no choice. Her words tumbled out like shattered glass, cutting both of them as they fell. Raheel turned to her, his eyes sharp, wounded. The neighbor's son? Maya, my God, how long? Her silence was the answer. Raheel stabbed. His chest rose and fell heavily, the betrayal suffocating. All those nights, all those excuses, it was him. Tears streamed down her face. I was lonely, Raheel. You left me alone in this marriage long before I ever turned to him. I never wanted this to happen. Please, you have to believe me. He shook his head, struggling to breathe through the storm of anger, grief, and disbelief. Believe you? You've destroyed everything. His voice broke. You've destroyed us. The weight of his words crushed her. She crawled closer, reaching for his hand, but he recoiled as though her touch burned. From outside, faint sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. A neighbor must have heard her scream. Maya's stomach knotted. Raheel, what do we do? He looked at her, eyes hollow. What do we do? Maya, there is no hiding this. There's a dead man in our living room. Her voice shook. If they know about the affair, they'll never believe me. They'll say it wasn't self-defense. Please, Raheel, please help me. His face twisted, torn between love and revulsion. You're asking me to lie, to protect you after what you've done to us. I'm begging you, she whispered, clutching his sleeve. If you ever loved me, don't let them take me away. For a long moment, the storm outside filled the silence. Then Raheel closed his eyes, his breath ragged. I loved you more than you'll ever know. But right now, I don't even recognize you. The knock came, hard, commanding. Police! Open the door! Maya's body shook as the voices echoed through the walls. The world was closing in, piece by piece. Raheel rose slowly, his movements heavy with resignation. He glanced once more at her, then at the body between them. The decision weighed visibly on his shoulders. Finally he spoke, his tone flat, exhausted. You'll tell them the truth, all of it.
About him, about us.
About tonight. There's no silence left worth keeping. Her sobs deepened, her palms covering her face. They'll take me away. They already will, Raheel said coldly, moving toward the door. But maybe the truth is the only thing left we can salvage from this ruin. The knocking grew louder. The doorknob rattled. Maya's gaze drifted to the lifeless body, to the crimson stains that tethered her fate. The love that once felt like fire had burned her life to ashes. As Raheel opened the door, the silhouettes of two detectives appeared, rain dripping from their coats, their expressions grim. One stepped forward, voice steady. Mrs. Raheel Khan, we need to ask you about what happened here tonight. Maya's trembling hands fell to her sides. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. It was me. And with those 3 words, the weight of betrayal, love, and death sealed her fate forever.